So you can see how with the bevel up, how chisel binds in there. So So you can see how slow this would go if you had to clamp and unclamp this. The other thing is, if you had to change your body position, working left and then working right by having it clamp between dogs, this is a bit of an impediment too. Okay, that's probably a little too steep, so let's see if we can back it off a bit. All right, I'm going to leave some of that meat down there for the time being. I'm going to open this up a bit. Clean this up. Now, if you actually put the chisel against your chest and use your body weight, this isn't too bad. You can't do this with arm strength alone. Always keep your fingers behind the blade. Never work with it in front. So we're down about to this point. Yeah, we're pretty much down to this line and down to this point. So when you get to that point, you want to turn it over and open the mouth up. Now our lines here, these are the lines we want to work to. This is the width of the chip breaker, which is coincidentally the width of the chip well. Now the second set of lines here is the width of the blade, but that'll be the blade slot. So right now we just want to work to the width of the chip breaker. I usually like to start on the mouth side, just in case for some reason the chip runs, because the mouth is the critical part. Stay well within the lines here. Let's just make our opening to get started. Work back towards the line. Work fairly vertical. I mean, if you hold the chisel straight up, it'll cut it 30-degree angle, which is about your bevel angle. So you need to cut the mouth opening, because you can cut all the way through the base, but if you do that without this being opened up, you can split out the mouth, which means you're going to have to either redo it or make a repair. So let's get a little closer here. All right, actually, if you have it, I like doing this with the wider chisel to get a straight line. Slight overcut on that, but that's not a problem. That line cut looks pretty good. Yep, okay. So, a piece of dirt there. Bevel up on this cut. Come on. That's the great thing actually about the woods for these dies. They don't, a lot of woods you could make this cut and that chip would just compliantly fly out. But this wood holds on. it's not going to give that chip up until I make that meet exactly at the bottom. And we don't. There we go. That'll do for now. This is the angle of the throat opening. We're well within that. And of course we're well within cutting up in this way here. So we can continue our cuts on the top. And this is going to have to be conservative cuts. So, getting close to the line here, so can't be too cavalier. Okay, I think I'll leave that for the moment. We have to work back this way now. Looks pretty good. Looks might be a whisker steep, so anytime I go to do a slightly relaxed angle here, the chisel wants to pop out of the wood. So what you want to do when you're chiseling, you have to bend over the piece front and back and determine whether that angle, you can see now it's too steep and now it's too shallow. Now, always looking at this back and this line here. This is the blade bend line, and you want to be driving that chisel at all times with the bevel up, when the bevel is up, parallel to that line. So you have to keep your eye on that line, the back of the chisel, while you're hammering. And I'm a little too steep, so I have to correct that. And you have to do the same thing when you're cutting down the far side. And that's kind of the secret. It's less critical when you're doing the chip well, but you do the same thing on the chip well, and then when you cut in from the bottom for the throat opening, the chisel is parallel to that too. Okay, so I'm going to chisel a little more at the back, and then I'm going to try and finish this, opening this up to the throat. So That was pretty parallel. Let's get down here. I don't like having this waste in the bottom. Let's assist this a little bit. We can cut this pretty much straight down, if not back. I think we're through. All right, let's go on and finish the blade bed. You should check this virtually every cut at this point. So I'm going to, it looks a little steep. Yeah, it's not parallel. Let's say it does a little shallow on this side, a little steep on this side. So let's do a little pairing and get them parallel. It may be hard to chisel, but a beautiful pair. This wasn't made from probably the best stock, but I don't know how old the stock was before the plane was made, but that plane's 20, 30 years old, and you hear that density? It's very hard. So now we have to make some light cuts, try and keep the chisel from diving in this hard wood. And you do that by sliding along the back of the chisel. Yeah, kind of the thing you really want to see, pretty even. Okay. Now I just have to do that a number more times. All right. One or two more cuts. We're going to be at the stopping point. Well, 2 or 3 more cuts. And I feel that resistance increase like that. It makes me nervous. I'm thinking the cut's getting too deep. Perhaps a little bit. So let's start again. Okay, pretty rough. I don't like it this rough. And it's actually, if I sight down it, it's overall parallel to the angle. There's a little concave along its length, so I have to pare some here at the top. Pretty good. Let's continue paring. I want to get this corner cleaned out. Whoa. Okay. Keep your fingers behind the blade, because with the amount of pressure you're putting on this, this can rotate really easily. And your fingers could suddenly find themselves in the path of the chisel. Oops. Oops. Yeah, pretty parallel. Now, the blade is concave on the back. It's concave, well, not very much. Sometimes on the softer woods I might leave a full 1/16 of an inch curve, and this thing would curve from this point to this point. I think I'm going to take about half of what's there and then curve it to 0 at this point. And I think hammering has yielded its maximum results at this point. Having trouble controlling the cut in this hard wood, so we're going to, paring seems to be pretty rewarding. When you're doing this, don't make the bed concave going this way. You got to keep that straight going that way. So you want to check it, sight down it. You can put a small straight edge on it if you want. And that curve that you see at the top should be reflected down here. Now if you look down along that, see this is high. What you want to do is like winding sticks. You got the top line and you got the bottom line down here. Sight along it. See if those are parallel. See if they have the same curve. And check along here and check the shadow lines and see if it's curved along its length. You don't want that. So I'm seeing it a little higher here, I think, in my memory. Definitely we're not back to the line here, almost to the line there. Got an unevenness there, so we're going to get rid of that. Still shows not quite parallel to bottom. We're back pretty much far enough to the line in the center at the top. Let's check for parallel for both, and not quite, still a little high over here. Oops, over here. So let's start working that curve. Another place you can check is at the bottom. If you sight in there, you can see the curve. Yeah, it's starting to form really. This really should come to a pretty sharp edge if the angle is correct. And of course the layout line is correct and you didn't overcut it. Looks like it might be overcut a little bit. That's not a problem. It's actually better to have that slightly blunt than to have that a knife edge in practice. Still a little high on the bottom. Almost parallel in curve. Let's clean up the rest of this now. To get into the corners, I just try and get the corner of the chisel in there, slight angle, and cut those fibers. Same thing here, except when they're not cut all the way to the back here. And start a little high and come back. Sometimes a little hard to tell if these are parallel to the sides. just about, looks like this one could use a little more. Another reason not to use steel dogs. Try and cut this at the approximate 10 degrees. That we marked on there. Clean it up with a wide chisel here. Trying to catch, it's got a little curve to it, so I'm trying to catch at the very top to flatten it out. Pretty good. So, I want to cut this back to the line, which it looks like it's pretty much on the line, but I want to do it at about 10 degrees. So that's going to be your throat right there. That's your mouth, and then the shavings passes through the throat. I would like that to be a little bit higher, so the angle looks pretty good. The mouth cut is not straight. Let me see if I can straighten that up. To get it right on there. Still haven't caught it. Still haven't caught it. Well, there's an easy way to do that. Or shall we say, an easier way. Let's just, yes, make sure this is nice and square. Don't want to make that too deep. That should help. Should help. Should help. Rest the chisel and guide it. Good, nice straight mouth cut. Let's finish paring this off a little bit. We can do the same thing in the top, give our chisel a little place to rest. Get a nice straight drifted. Okay. I'm going to start this with a hammer. So this is pretty well paired here. Some stuff in the corner that actually is not going to pair the function. It's just something you have to look at day after day. The sides need to be finished pairing. You can see the chisel is cut into there because it's not quite wide enough. We'll smooth those out and then we'll make the cuts for the blade slot. Need a little work here on the bed. Okay, at least twice as long. Let's see here. So we want the grains running this way. This is, for me, this is one of the parts that I wouldn't say drive me nuts exactly, but because you're pairing with the grain, very often your access is limited to one direction, or mostly one direction. And I really like to see that smooth in there and straight. And I feel like it never quite ends or is as good looking as I want it to be. So, not too bad. We've got our sweep here of the concavity of the back, most of which will disappear even at this. Sides could be paired a little bit more, but like I say, every time I look at it I see more. Kind of have to stop at some point. But I think we're ready to cut the slot for the blade.